The Galactic Military Academy's simulation chamber hummed with an ominous energy as Instructor Zixter adjusted his four-year stalks to focus on the newest batch of cadets. In his 3 centuries of teaching, he had seen thousands attempt the gauntlet of Rosika combat simulation designed by the ancient Krell warriors to test tactical genius under impossible pressure. The statistics were carved into the Academy's history, a 99% failure rate across all species. Today, Zixter announced, his voice reverberating through the chamber, you will face the ultimate test of military aptitude. Most of you will fail within seconds. Some might last minutes. Only the truly exceptional have ever completed it. Among the assembled cadets stood Julia Reeves, a human from Earth's 3rd colony world. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, her green eyes sharp and observant. Beside her, Oscar Chen, another human from the Sol system, shifted his weight nervously. They were the only 2 humans in a class of 47 cadets, representing 23 different species. The other cadets towering Krillians with their crystalline exoskeletons, swift Valorians with their 6-limbed agility, and calculating Mentari with their 3-brains all regarded the humans with barely concealed disdain. Humans were newcomers to the Galactic Federation, their admission only 5 years old. They were seen as primitive, emotional, and woefully unprepared for the rigors of real space combat. The simulation will adapt to your every move, Zixter continued. It learns, it evolves, it anticipates. The gauntlet has broken the minds of admirals and humbled the proudest warriors. You have 1 hour to complete the objective, reach the extraction point while protecting 3 civilian targets from an endless enemy assault. One by one, cadets entered the simulation pod. The Krillian cadet lasted 43 seconds before his tactical formation collapsed. A Valorian managed 2 minutes using her species' renowned speed before being overwhelmed. The Mentari, despite his species' computational prowess, fell in 3 minutes when the simulation exploited a logical paradox in his defensive strategy. By the time Julia's turn arrived, 38 cadets had failed. The mood in the observation room was somber. Even Oscar, who had managed an impressive 5 minutes before extraction, looked exhausted and defeated. Cadet Reeves Zixter called, his tone carrying a hint of pity. Humans had performed adequately in theoretical courses, but this simulation required something more, something he doubted their young species possessed. Julia stepped into the pod without hesitation. The neural interface connected, and she found herself on a devastated urban battlefield. 3 holographic civilians huddled behind debris as hostile forces converged from multiple vectors. The enemy AI immediately assessed her capabilities and began its adaptive assault. In the observation room, Zixter's eye stalks widened in surprise as Julia did something unprecedented. She didn't move. For 15 precious seconds, she stood completely still, her eyes scanning the environment while enemy positions locked onto her location. The other instructors began murmuring. Was she frozen in fear? Had the human's mind already broken? Then Julia moved, but not forward. She moved backward, ordering her civilian charges to follow her deeper into enemy territory. The observation room erupted in confused chatter. Every cadet had attempted to fight their way toward the extraction point. Julia was doing the opposite. She's lost her mind, muttered Instructor Vekla, a retired Krillian general. She's leading them to certain death. But Zixter watched more carefully. Julia wasn't panicking. Her movements were deliberate, calculated. She was herding the civilians through specific corridors, avoiding open spaces, using the environment itself as a weapon. 3 minutes passed, then 5. The simulation's AI, confused by her unorthodox approach, struggled to adapt. It had been programmed to counter aggressive tactics, defensive formations, and strategic retreats toward the objective. Julia was doing none of these things. She was hunting Dot by moving into enemy territory. She had positioned herself behind the AI's primary attack vectors. The simulation's forces, programmed to push targets toward the extraction point, found themselves chasing her deeper into their own lines. Julia used their aggression against them, leading them into choke points where their numbers became a liability. 7 minutes. Oscar leaned forward in his seat, recognizing something in her strategies, something uniquely human. Julia wasn't trying to win through superior firepower or tactical genius. She was exploiting the simulation's fundamental assumption that any rational being would want to escape danger as quickly as possible. By embracing chaos, by willingly entering the most dangerous zones, she had turned the AI's predictive algorithms into a weakness. 10 minutes. Zixter's hands trembled as he watched. In 300 years, no cadet had lasted this long. Julia reached what should have been the enemy command center position. The simulation never expected anyone to reach. From there she accessed a maintenance tunnel marked on her HUD as structurally unstable. Another assumption: no commander would risk civilian casualties by using damaged infrastructure. But Julia understood something the ancient Krell who designed this simulation did not. Humans had survived on a death world by taking calculated risks that other species considered suicidal. She led her charges through the collapsing tunnel, timing each movement between falling debris with split-second precision. 12 minutes. The simulation, in a desperate attempt to adapt, redirected all forces to her position. But it was too late. Julia emerged exactly where she needed to be behind the extraction point's defensive perimeter. Having circumnavigated the entire battlefield by going through it instead of around it, extraction successful. The pod opened. Julia stepped out, her face calm, slightly flushed from exertion. The observation room was dead silent. 13 minutes and 47 seconds, Sixter whispered, his voice barely audible. She beat it. Oscar jumped from his seat, whooping with joy. The other human cadets joined him, but the alien instructors remained frozen in shock. Sixter approached Julia slowly, his eye stalks trembling. How? He asked. The simulation adapts to every known tactical doctrine. How did you defeat it? Julia shrugged slightly. You said it learns and anticipates based on our moves, so I did things no sane person would do. I figured a simulation designed by ancient warriors would expect logic and honor. She smiled. Humans aren't always logical, Instructor. Sometimes we're just crazy enough to try what shouldn't work. In that moment Sixter felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: genuine fear, not of the simulation, but of what these humans might become. They had spent 5 years being underestimated, dismissed as primitive, but this young cadet had just proven that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or strength, it was their willingness to embrace beautiful, terrifying madness when the situation demanded it. The other instructors began updating their assessment protocols. The humans, it seemed, would need to be watched much more carefully, and perhaps, Sixter thought with a shudder, they should never be made into enemies.